my name's Patti Lehigh. I have a doctorate, and that just means I'm piles higher and deeper, just so you understand. I'm actually the Director of Clinical Research, Regulatory Affairs at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. You know, my team is the group that we're the contact point for all of the researchers, all the investigators to speak with FDA. We're kind of the people that do the interpretation to make sure everybody understands the language that they're speaking, whether it be scientific or otherwise. And St. Jude is located directly in Memphis, Tennessee. As many know, Danny Thomas started it in 1962. I always like to think of it as the child is first, because this is the place where our goal is the hope that no child's going to die in the prime of their life, or as Danny Thomas said, in the dawn of their life. So basically my background is regulatory affairs now, but I have an extensive background in a lot of areas. I worked previously for a consulting firm with medical devices for a little while. Prior to that, for 13 years, I worked for the company that was Sharing Plow, merged with Merck, bought by Bayer Consumer Health. So I lovingly call it Schmayer. Not meaning to be mean, but it's just how I remember which one is which. And I've gone through numerous roles there, clinical investigator, and then I also did medical affairs associate. Then I moved into medical device engineer, as well as quality and its regulatory affairs. Prior to that, I worked at Kraft Foods, and I actually loved that work too. I have a dual major in food science and microbiology that I achieved from LSU. Now, here's the important part. I know I don't believe Leslie's on anymore, but I was an undergraduate from the University of Arkansas, so I too can call the hog. How many places can you actually say a woman is proud to be a hog? Really? Seriously? I know, right? Well, thank you. And so everyone knows, too, I think I'm kind of chillaxed because I'm doing presentations so often right now between meetings with FDA and so forth. I wanted to enjoy this. So I made it like a kind of decoupage kind of thing, my daughter said. Do it fun. My daughter's a librarian, so that's how we'll start. So basically, I'm going to give you a little more. So besides all that information, I have a fantastic family that I adore. And my parents, first of all, were quite a bit older when they had me. And I have two brothers who were quite a bit older. And so it was like having two sets of parents. The nice parents that let me do whatever I want, my parents, and the parents who didn't let me date hardly, gave me a set of boxing gloves for my 6th birthday and made me learn how to box, drained the oil from my car to make sure I learned how to change my oil and change my tires, and so on and so forth. Being raised with boys, it kind of gave me, it was almost an unfair advantage because I didn't realize there were differences a lot of times with being a girl. So it was definitely something to think about. Like I said, my schools, I told you how all that went, and now my family is, my husband and I live in the Memphis area for the past 25 years. We have a son and a daughter, and our daughter was born 3 months prematurely and had mild cerebral palsy. We later found out she had severe dyslexia, and she is very gifted and talented. She's finished her master's degree in library and information science. She's currently looking for a library position for the past year and a half. Thank you, pandemic, but she's been working as a scheduler. She's a lot of the reason why I do the things that I do. I talk things through with her. She's my counselor in many areas. She gives me focus. And then there's my son, who is an absolute sweetheart, but he was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, which many refer to as an autism spectrum disorder. With my son being older, his diagnosis was Asperger's. If you think he's going to change his diagnosis just because you have a new name for it, think again. Yes, Sheldon Cooper is alive and well and lives at my house. That's all I'm going to say. So my background kind of tells you what all happened with me over the years. You take things on and you move them to where you need them to be. So let's start with this first slide, all right? I thought, well, okay, Renaissance woman, because really so many of us are female leaders and we don't even realize it. So many of the women in your life have always been female leaders. We always talk about our moms and our sisters and our grandmothers, and we don't realize they were Renaissance women. And because the definition of Renaissance is a person with many talents or areas of knowledge. Now, if you actually look that up and Google it, as we all do, what comes up, you will see there. It says Renaissance man, and then it says noun, Renaissance woman. So I thought that was interesting. That's a whole nother battle if you want to pick it, but I was just on go. So if we think back to the period of the Renaissance, person who is multi-talented. You think Leonardo da Vinci. That's the first one I think of. You think of Michelangelo. You go into the women, you might remember Lucretia Borgia and some of the Medici women. Then there was this painter who's on this actual, you see her painting of her sisters, and she has a very unique name. It's Sophanista Anguissola. And she and her sisters were all taught not just art, but mathematics and physics and chemistry and all the things that were important at the time for enlightenment, they thought. And not often do you ever hear about that because it just wasn't talked about. So let's go forward a little bit and let's think about some of the people today. And like right now, women are having to show their Renaissance capabilities in so many ways, just like our previous panel of four wonderful women, who turns out I actually know one. I know Susan. And it's kind of funny because if you look at the titles of the two articles I posted, the pandemic may set women back by a whole generation. We all know the journalists are trying to get people interested and upset so that you'll read more. But you could rewrite that as saying the pandemic is providing an opportunity for women to move forward in an even bigger way than the previous generation. And then the other one is COVID-19 pandemic, major challenge for gender equality. As a person who's trying not to get upset at every headline anymore, I changed again that word challenge to opportunity. So I think that we've got to think about the fact that we are all Renaissance women, and how are we doing it? Because there are many times you're doing it and you're frustrated with yourself and you're mad at yourself. And being a Renaissance woman also means you're going to develop other new talents constantly, and you don't even know you're doing it. And one of them is going to be patience and how to adapt. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is just giving an overall. These are things that I do, important things for me. And I'm betting that the majority of you could, if you don't do all of these, or at least some of these, you have something that replaces it very well. So for me, family and friends, it's very important. And because of my children's, as my daughter says, her different abilities, and my son calls them his superpowers, you'll see I have a lot of focus on the disabled community. My daughter also competes in the Paralympics, so I have done quite a bit of track field and swim, as well as sword, don't even ask. The autism community, I work quite extensively in that also within the state of Tennessee and within the U.S. And I also do a lot of volunteer work at the Shelby Farms Park Conservancy and the Memphis Public Library System. I also am involved with the ARC of Mid-South, and in that case I do a lot of advocacy work. I and my daughter will actually go to the Capitol and go speak with our different representatives. And you know it's bad, though, too, whenever your state representatives that are up in D.C. and you call them and they answer with your name. You know you've been calling a lot. But in this case, it's the same thing. The Renaissance is the fact that you have various talents and you learn them. And let's face it, nothing's easy. You don't learn it quick, but I've learned how to handle and I've actually gone to classes and seminars how to do an elevator speech. I talk fast, it works. But what I'm trying to say is that no matter what's come up, I've tried to figure out ways to work through it or to learn about it. And I'll be honest, a lot of times it isn't me. I'm relying on my daughter will find information for me. I'll call friends. I'll call people I don't know. I'll cold call someone in a heartbeat if I know that they've got an ability that I need to learn about. And in the same way, too, I've realized research has been my background. I didn't even know that that was like one of my superpowers because you don't know how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Let's go find someone that does. That's what research is, and you do it. You didn't even realize you guys were a Renaissance person and that you do research. And on the fun side, I'm a Zumba instructor. Let heaven help us all. Don't ever let me have caffeine before I teach. I like to do kickboxing. It's relaxing. That comes back from my brothers teaching me how to box. I love to bead and make jewelry and do wire work, and do a lot of the volunteering. So what does it take to be a Renaissance woman? That's what I just said. What is your focus? So you're doing work, and your work is very focused, and you know exactly what you're doing in that area, or you're learning it. But in the same manner, while you're doing that, what's going on at home? Now, whether or not you're a mom or a daughter or a caregiver or even just an animal parent, or just a part of a community. You have responsibilities. So you learn those areas, and you become gifted in those areas, and you become very talented in those areas. And all of a sudden, you find yourself being called a subject matter expert, a key opinion leader, and you didn't even know it. So don't ever sell yourself short. Look at what you've done. Look at how you've taken on things that come up, and just keep going. You can do it. So you guys realize the way that it happened with me is my career. I started off in food science because that's what my family was in. My dad worked for the FDA and USDA. My brother did too. And so I went into food science. I loved it. I said I didn't want to go to medical because I didn't want responsibility for other people. And lo and behold, I found some new and exciting things in my life with disabilities. So I had to take on that role, and I had to learn more about the medical. And then from there, I learned about neurology and surgery, neuroscience and behavioral science. And of course, I had to learn about the regulations as well as clinical trials. And then I said, I love food science, but my daughter was having a really big difficulty in school. She's severely dyslexic. And nothing's more frustrating than to know somebody is terribly brilliant, but they can't read something because it's moving. It's literally moving for them. Or they can't recall certain words. They're called dolch words, A and B, that kind of thing. Those aren't just naturally occurring for the dyslexics. They have a lot of trouble with mathematics a lot of times, which my daughter does. So I pulled her out of school. I had started volunteering, and she had started going to the Dyslexia Foundation of Memphis. And doggone if they didn't get me on their board, but they did a lot for my daughter. They got me into doing a lot of things with them, and I learned a lot from them. And I developed a homeschool program based on how we'd been learning at the dyslexia school. And my daughter and I referred to it lovingly as the roam school. We would roam here and roam there. If I found an expert who liked to do choir and singing, we'd go. Kathleen wanted to do debate. We went to Germantown. She wanted to get into some religious things. We went downtown. We were everywhere. It was roam school. Then my daughter decided she wanted to go back into school. At the same time, too, I was working on an ABA program for my son because we didn't have a whole lot of people in Memphis that did that. So I had to reach out to some people I'd never met before in Texas and develop an ABA program and learn how to hire people, how to do employment, how to do taxes. All the things I never wanted to learn, I had to learn. So my daughter went back to school. My son decided he wanted to go to another school also. And so we needed a little bit of money to do that. So I went back to work, and I got hired on at Sharon Mark and got into clinical research. And then because of my background with the clinical trials, both of my children have been in. My daughter's been in numerous trials up in at Barnes Jewish in St. Louis, and my son has been in the Genome Project on autism. I got to know a lot more about the studies and so forth. And I just graduated into doing more things. So my career moved because of my family, so to speak. So I went more into medical, went into quality, went into regulatory. And it's amazing because basically if you think about it, I've had 5 jobs, 5 major careers. I've had a food science researcher, a teaching education person who learned the regulations. I've done clinical research investigation. I've done medical device engineering, quality, and regulatory, and now I'm also a regulatory affairs specialist for St. Jude, which is a different type of regulatory than what I used to do. So it's been kind of interesting. So again, I think you're seeing the background. What do you do? I mean, even if it's just reading a book, do you like to read a book? Are you at the library a lot? Is there a certain type of book you like to read? Is there a certain hobby you do? Is there something that you have to do for your family members? You've become an expert. You are a Renaissance woman. And now remember, just because you're a woman leader, you may not want to be a director or a manager of people, but in one way or another, you are managing. You are either managing somebody's treatment, or you're managing an organization, or you're managing a fundraiser. Your Renaissance capabilities has carried over to make you a better leader. So always realize everything that's even a little bit painful that I've got to go learn all this, I've got to go read all this, it's making you better. So can you turn to the next slide, please? So the Renaissance woman I see in my community and in my work. So just being in Memphis, I mean, I can talk about my mom, I can talk about my daughter. They're all great influences on me. But I'm going to tell you about the women I've seen in the community. So there was a woman, her name was Veronica McKinney. She passed away in 2019. she was phenomenal because I was trying so hard for advocacy. I was trying to work through things. I was trying to work with the University of Memphis because I'm on their advisory board for the UMID. And sometimes I just wasn't getting the footing I needed, and I was about to give up. And she shows up at one of my meetings, and she goes, you're not giving up. And she stood behind me, and she got me involved. She got me involved with the mayor. She got me involved in all the programs that we have for employment of disabled in the Memphis area. And I realized this is my mentor. She's just a fantastic woman. She unfortunately did pass away from cancer, and I miss her, but I have to say she made such an impression on my life. And I'm not trying to drop all the names or anything. I did hers because she just meant so much to me. But think about in your life. Think about the women in your life. But also think about just the people in your life. They don't have to be men or women. To ask for more information, for help. That's important. So the one person that I would like to talk about, I mean, at our work in St. Jude, I actually was very impressed. Having been in industry for a number of years, it was actually kind of balanced between men and women. Even like with Merck and Sharon Clow and especially with Bayer, they worked very hard to balance out the male-female roles. But when I came to St. Jude to see such strong leaders that are women, and everybody respects everyone else, and the attitude was so much better than what I saw in industry. And it's not that industry was bad, but it was just like St. Jude. They're like, your attitude is not important. Your ego is not important. Check it at the door. That child is important. And I love it. I absolutely love it. And I got to tell you about one person that I have a lot of admiration for. And you guys may have heard about this person on the news. Her name is Haley Arsenault. And she's from Louisiana, so it's not a regular Arsenault. It's Arceneaux. It's definitely Cajun. She is a physician's assistant at St. Jude. And everyone was really tickled because of the fact that she was actually a patient at St. Jude for years and swore up and down she was going to come back. And she did, and now she's working there. And we had someone reach out to us because of their love of St. Jude and what we do, and they wanted to tap a person from St. Jude to be a representative for special mission. And the decision was made without Haley knowing it that she was going to be that person. So here's Haley. She's a former patient. She's now soon to be an astronaut because she is going to be on the first all-civilian mission to space. You'll be hearing about her in the next year. And it's not that they inspire me. I admire them. They mean a lot to me because all these people, and there's just so many, you can't name them all. They've influenced me on how if I can't find something the way I want it, I can find it another way. So let's go on to that next slide. So you guys have got it. You understand it. You don't need me to repeat it. We're at the end of the day. You need to be getting going. But here's the thing. Most Renaissance women are all around you are female leaders, whether or not they have a high title or role. You are a Renaissance woman, and you know you are. Just the fact that you called into this today, you're wanting to learn more. That makes you Renaissance. That was the definition, because you're learning new areas of expertise and knowledge. So here's the thing, what I see with female leaders today. Women leaders have to learn many disciplines because you don't just lead in the workforce. You also lead in the community. You lead in your family. You lead in whatever you're in. And you don't even know you're doing it. And let's face it, so many women over thousands of years have never gotten credit for what they do, and we all know. And we're not putting down men, but we're just saying that it's been understood that even though the woman goes to the workplace, she still takes care of the schooling. She takes care of organizing transportation. She takes care of the food. Now, sometimes it starts to balance out. My husband's worked very hard to try to do some of these things. He's Mr. Laundry. Yay! And he tries to cook, and again, he tries, and that's when my kids and I step in and say, we got this. But basically, you know that you've got a way to get in. You've got your leadership going somewhere. So different personalities, different working styles, and personal situations make for different types of leaders. And not all leaders go with all of their workers. Always remember that. You can't be everything to everybody. You're not going to make everyone happy. But the one thing you're going to do to be a good leader is you're going to ask for help, always. You don't do it alone, and always give credit. And don't forget, help can come from the people that you employ. The help can come from someone from another field. I actually work with some people from other companies and stuff that I met in passing years ago, and they're very, very lifelong friends, but mentors also. And as everyone, and I noticed this because I know that Leslie said this, and I know that Laura said this. No is actually a good answer. It may not mean no the way you're thinking, but just realize no is a good answer. And that means when someone asks, when you ask, it doesn't always mean just no. It can mean not yet. It can mean ask me again later. Or it can mean propose it to me and tell me how it could be a yes. So no is a good answer. And always remember, too, failure is not a bad thing either. Failure is a learning tool. I mean, face it, we wouldn't have penicillin had the dude not dropped his moldy bread onto a plate of bacteria. That was a major failure. But he made it work. So no is a good answer. And always ask why. Ask how. So whenever you do an evaluation for quality, you're supposed to ask the 5 whys. So like they answer the first question, you keep asking why until you can't ask it when it comes to a point that you can't do anything about whatever happened. But I also ask how, because then that kind of lets them tell a story. And that's the other thing. You need to listen. Because by listening to other people's stories, you can build the full story. You can hear that the elephant has a trunk, that the elephant has large legs, that the elephant has a thin tail, that the elephant has a giant body. And then you realize the big picture of the elephant. But if you only note one part of each part of the elephant, you're going to think it's a snake or a rat or it's a tree. But if you put it all together, get the whole story. So listen. So ask why, ask how. But here's the important thing. Do you guys remember, I think it was a Diet Coke commercial 3 years ago or 4 years ago? The guy gets to the end of something, he takes a sip of his Diet Coke after the guy's offering him a job, and he goes, and the guy keeps offering more and more things. And I've actually found that whenever someone thinks that they're finishing a conversation and you don't feel like you've got all the information, just nicely say, and they'll keep going, and you'll get the full picture. And it will help you to be a better leader and to grow yourself. And here's an important thing. I've heard this before, too. Please remember, breaks are necessary. Please, because if you take care of you, no one else is going to. That is just the rule in general. So take a break. And sometimes breaks seem like they're happening at the wrong time. But you know what? If you can't function, you can't do. And also remember to admire people. Pattern yourself after them if you really like them. But don't say that they inspire you, because here's the thing. While you think they're inspiring you, you're admiring what they did. But if you say that someone inspires you, you're putting them on a pedestal. And you're putting a lot of pressure on them and yourself to believe in them. And so if they fall, you've given it up. So let's face it, everyone has their bad parts. We're all human. So admire them. Admire their qualities that they have. Enjoy that. My daughter refers to it as inspiration porn. In the disabled community, they talk about that. They really hate that, being told that they inspire somebody. You should admire them because they're doing everything that they can. But don't always say that they inspire you. Here's the last point. It's not there, but I want to tell you. Be the best you can be. You can listen to all of us all day long. We can tell you how we did it, what we did, what obstacles we had, but you've got your own obstacles. You've got your own story. What I need you to do, take breaks, think about things, listen to people, give people credit where credit is due, but be the best you can be. There's nothing that anyone's going to compete with on that. No one else can be you, so you're competing only with yourself. Be the best you can be. Learn what you can every opportunity you get. It will grow you in ways you have no idea. And ask for help. Okay, last slide. That's it.